With my credit card, I max that out to 4,000.
What do you mean you max it out? Max it out or maxed it out?
I got confused with the credit debt and credit limit. So my parents got me a credit card. I ended up getting a max credit limit of $8,000. So I could spend up to $8,000. That's what that means, right? Me and my boyfriend, me and my friends, we would go out and I'm like, oh, I'll pay for everybody. I got it. It's just a credit card. I would pay and pay and pay and pay. And then I called my mom one day and I wanted her to be proud of me. So it's just like, hey, I've got $4,000 credit on my credit card. And she's like, credit limit or credit debt? I was like, what's debt? And she's like, that's bad. I'm like, I thought that was good. And she's like, no, your credit limit at the time it was 8,000. So I was like, okay, well the credit limit's 8,000. That's good, right? And she's like, yes, but you were $4,000 in debt. And then they were like, screw it, you're not going to pay this off in time. Give it to me. So my parents took it and they're still currently paying it off right now.
Wow. So yeah, Clint's new girlfriend isn't really that smart, but maybe that's why he's with her. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings.
Straight
My name's
to prison.
Luke Rudowski here of the bestpoliticalshow.com, and we are going to be going live for the next 2 hours discussing all the latest and craziest news. As of course, we have a new star witness against the case against Donald Trump that stole $60,000 from him, as it looks like Nikki Haley might be making a contested run against Donald Trump. As, of course, Biden is contesting himself with his own words, as there's also a lot of news regarding Iran. There's a UK blood scandal. Lots of really crazy stuff to discuss that we're going to be talking about all here for the next 2 hours. So please share this broadcast with your friends and family members. It is more imperative than ever since, of course, YouTube is giving us the business. You guys sharing this broadcast really does mean a lot to us, and it definitely helps get the word out there, as, of course, you could also participate in the conversation, and one easy and quick way to do that is to simply sign up to lookunfiltered.com. You click the link right now in the description. You could sign up for any amount that you want. Click here, put in your information. It's quick, it's easy, and you get access to a Telegram channel that we are going to be going to in about an hour and a half from now, and then you will be a part of the show, and you will get to ask us whatever you want during the proceedings on another platform that we can't even mention here. You should also check out mysuperchat.com, a platform that only takes a 3% service charge and allows your super chats to actually show up on screen. If you super chat $100, there's a graphic that plays that highlights some explosives bazongas. Yes, that's an actual situation that was triggered about 2 to 3 times beforehand. So check out mysuperchat.com for those
live footage
details.
of my girlfriend, actually.
Correct.
$100 super chat. You get to see my girlfriend's bazongas.
Bloop up and pop up.
Yeah,
and
literally explodes.
So yeah,
It's amazing.
There's that. Joining us for today's conversation is Mark Grouper. Mark, who are you for the people who don't know you?
Well, most people refer to me, including the police, as Mark Robert. I am the host of, along with Eric Hunley, America's Untold Stories on YouTube, Rumble. I'm allowed to say that? I can't say it. Okay. And various places you can find the channel on the internet. I won't even say where we are, but we're out there.
Just search for America's Untold Stories, right?
Search for America's Untold Stories, and you'll find us.
Nice.
Lots of really interesting stories. Before the show even begun, we were talking about some really awesome, crazy stuff, as there's going to be some interesting talk about purging a lot of things from your system from Steph and Ian soon. But before we get into that, Clint, you didn't teach your girlfriend basic economics. What
Dude,
the hell, man?
That offends me deeply. Like, of all the haggard gals that you've claimed are my girlfriends, the fact that she would rack 4,000 debt and didn't understand that wasn't a good thing. Oh man, the future is really in peril.
She thought she was getting points.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
raising my
I don't know
score.
what she thought she was doing, but that is devastating. Her parents should be like embarrassed, honestly.
Hopefully it's fake. Hopefully it's
Yeah.
just trying to get engagement with the audience, because there's a lot of these videos out
Sure.
there online just trying to be like, look how stupid it is, and it goes viral and people get social credit scores
Let's hope.
and monetize it. But with the way that the American youth are today, it probably isn't.
Yeah, no, I've known a few people. I have 2 younger brothers who are like 20, 21 years old, and man, their friends are real dumb. Yes. So we're in trouble. Anyways, at Liberty Lock Pod on X, Liberty Lockdown's the show. I also do Tower Gang, You Should Never Watch, and I'm also running for the vice presidency of the United States of America underneath the Libertarian Party, if you can believe it. I'm also covered in flea bites or whatever, mosquitoes. I did a porch tour with Robbie the Fire. It was a blast, but I was eaten alive, so I am recovering slowly. We got Ian Crossland in the building.
It's really monkeypox, but that's another story that we'll share in just about an hour from now. As of course, Ian's in the house, and he's releasing some monkeypox stuff from his buttocks.
7-day cleanse and fasting. It's bizarre, man. So I'm a little brain foggy, but I'm definitely going to enjoy this with you.
Just try to focus, Ian.
I will focus. I will focus. If you don't know who I am, I'm Ian Crossland. I'm an actor, musician, writer. I do Timcast IRL. I do this show. I got my own stuff at Ian Crossland all over the internet. And also, I'm a CEO of Inverted Technology, where we're building decentralized tech to get networks to come together with other networks. It's going to be great. It's going to be very hot.
He's also a very hungry man.
Wow. I'm so hungry, literally and figuratively
You're
right now.
You're the founder of Grubhub? Is that true?
Oh, you're making me hungry, Mark. Yes, I'm the founder.
No. Founder of Uber Eats?
Uber Eats?
You know how many times I've looked around and seen like popcorn and this, all I get to eat is like powder and
Did you see the video of the woman who delivered the Grubhub groceries and there was a staircase?
Yes, we played that video. That was Clint's girlfriend last week.
Amazing how many women he goes through in the span of a month.
He's a very busy man.
I know. He's tested literally every hour.
That's how I got
tested.
these dots.
Yeah,
so.
monkeypox.
We connect the dots. There's a lot of conspiracies going on.
Yeah, it's going to be a little cruel because we have a sponsor, Biltong, in this episode that we're going to be mentioning in a little bit. We always eat it during the show, so I'm sorry, Steph, and I'm sorry, Ian, because Steph is on the cleanse. And Steph is on the cleanse as well. How's the stuff going? How's the cleanse going, Steph?
It's going pretty good. This is Steph. I am the button pusher for We Are Change.
And she's very hungry.
We're doing it with somebody else because it's like, I'm hungry right now, but being able to tell that to someone else and then being like, it's okay, you're going to be okay, is a big help. Is helpful.
You guys are going for 7 days, yeah?
7 days. Day 3.
Wow.
Savages.
There's a lot of gory stories already and crazy sounds coming out of the banyo. We'll get into that in about an hour from now because we're going to have picture exposés that are going to be shown exclusively to Clint to judge.
Oh, no.
In just a little
No,
bit.
thank you.
So, there's that. As of course, the main story that we decided to lead with today is what happened during the criminal trial of Donald Trump, the former president of the United States, who in court proceedings today in New York City found out that he actually was robbed of $60,000+, as the New York Post puts it very well. Cohen, the lead star witness against Donald Trump, quote, was already a perjurer, fraudster, and tax cheat. Now he's also a thief. As the news broke that he stole $30,000 earlier this morning, now it's coming out that he stole $60,000 from the former president of the United States in his hush money trial during the proceedings, where, of course, he was being questioned. As the prosecution now has rested, we soon will be getting a decision in this case that, in my opinion, and many other legal experts, has already kind of fallen apart, as the testimony from Stormy Daniels was also contradicted by her statements a couple years ago, and it definitely does look like we were saying from the very beginning, that this was an utter sham trial. What do you guys make of this latest revelation? $60,000+ defrauded, taken away, stolen from the former president of the United States, and he's the one being held responsible. He's the one in court right now. I think they absolutely got it wrong here, and I think that was their plan all along. What do you guys think?
Well, I just think it's funny because Stormy Daniels took a hush money payment and then she spoke out, which violated her contract. So essentially she could have been sued by Donald Trump for that. Now you got Cohen, who's admitting on the stand to robbing Donald Trump and testifying about how he believes that Trump is a criminal. I got to be honest, I actually like Cohen. I think it ties into my fondness for my Tower Gang brethren. Like, I like overt scumbags, and Cohen is such an unbelievable scumbag. It's almost like it's so over the top brazen. I kind of respect it, but he's obviously a bad guy, and this case is junk, and it should fall apart. And if he's convicted, then the judicial system is truly a laughingstock.
Mark, what do you think of this kind of these larger trials against Donald Trump? From my perspective, it definitely does seem politically loaded, politically charged. It seems like they're just trying to get him any way they can, but at the same time, they're also creating someone that is only becoming more popular with more of the charges that they levy against him that clearly don't stand in the court of public opinion.
I don't know, but I just want to say, before Stormy Daniels was on the scene, there was Hurricane Williams, and nobody remembers her. She was the predecessor to Stormy Daniels. No, I mean, the trial has to end next week because of the new season of The Apprentice coming out. And also the fact of the matter is they've just run out of witnesses, Luke. So they only had Stormy Daniels and they only had Michael Cohen. There's really nowhere else to go after this. So the situation, which nobody seems to want to talk about, is that jury has to deliberate on 34 felony counts. I predict that they will come back with convictions on 5, 17, 21, 9, 11. Whatever they come back with, Marshan is going to have to say to the bailiffs, please remand the defendant into custody. Nobody wants to discuss this. And Trump will be escorted through the tiny little door next to the judge's bench. There's really no way around this. To believe that 12-member Manhattan jury is going to find him innocent on 34 felony counts is, of course, completely absurd. If they find him guilty on 5 felony counts or 3 felony counts or 19 felony counts, Marshan is going to ask the bailiffs to remand the defendant into custody.
Yeah, and then the whole world explodes. I mean, if that
right,
happens.
but nobody seems to want to visualize what's going to happen. The best that could happen is he says, come back for sentencing in 2 weeks, you're out on bail, or sentencing will be next month. But if he does come back for the sentencing, the same thing is going to happen. Marshan is not there to simply give him probation. Any judge could have done that. Marshan, in case your listeners don't know, comes from a military junta background family in Colombia, in Bogota, Colombia. His family were part of the military junta. I think his father was a general. He's not from the United States. He was born into a fascist regime there. He's here to do business. Trump will be convicted on X amount of counts. He will be remanded into custody, and he will be sent to Rikers Island. So people will say, well, what about the Secret Service? Well, that's run by the Department of Homeland Security. You can ask RFK Jr. why he doesn't have Secret Service. They're not going to Rikers Island, and if you don't believe that's a possibility, ask the CEO of the Trump Organization, who is going to be in the cell right next to him, Alan Weselbart, who's been there twice in the past year.
Yeah, just 2 weeks ago, we reported on the Secret Service preparing to send Donald Trump into incarceration.
Yeah.
This is a real possibility.
Oh, yeah.
And with the story unfolding the way it is, the public reaction is definitely going to be pretty important here.
Well, they'll be cheering in Manhattan. There'll be celebrations in New York. CNN will celebrate. They'll have an hour-long special on the incarceration of Donald Trump. Nobody seems to be able to visualize what's going to happen here. They seem to be able to visualize, and I'm talking about pundits. I mean, Jonathan Turley types, Dershowitz types, even Trump's own lawyers. The idea that they would go 0 for 34 on 34 felony counts, to me, is absurd. It's bizarre.
Yeah, you might be right. It's just that the case is so bad. But I grant you, it is a New York jury,
right,
and it is a judge that is almost certainly skewing the evidence to make it more convincing than it ultimately is.
And a left-wing Democratic prosecutor that's also in charge of everything.
I mean, who cares if it's overturned on appeal 3 years from now? That's not the point. They want him incarcerated during the election season.
I hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong, too.
Yeah, what do you guys? What do you guys think the reaction from the general public will be? Because again, people in New York will celebrate, maybe some in California will as well. But this whole case is falling apart, but it's still in the hand of the jury, and the jury is comprised of people from New York City, predominantly a lot of leftists. The judge also made it so Orthodox Jewish people can't be a part of these proceedings, because he made sure that the court was going on Friday, which Orthodox Jewish people that are in New York City that are overwhelmingly right wing couldn't be a part of the jury. jury poll. This is why they have a break on Wednesday, by the way. Usually courts have breaks on Fridays. This judge made sure no breaks on Fridays, no Orthodox Jewish members here of the jury. So the jury could be stacked, and the deliberation here could also be ongoing for a long time as well.
Let me clarify one thing there. I'm from Manhattan myself. This is a Manhattan jury, not a New York City jury, Ian. This is Luke.
Yeah.
This is a jury that is handpicked from the borough of Manhattan. If it was Staten Island, he would walk. If it was Brooklyn, he would walk. If it was Queens, he would walk. This is a Manhattan jury. I think the audience needs to understand the difference between the two. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good, very good depiction there, because when you go to Manhattan, people usually visit it. Not a lot of people know a lot of people who live in Manhattan, but the people who live in Manhattan overwhelmingly vote for Democratic policies.
I think Biden took 92% of the vote, to be specific.
Wow.
Yeah, 92 or 94%.
Wow.
So it would be hard to find a Trump favorite juror in Manhattan. You would literally have to go out of your way, bring in anthropologists from the Museum of Natural History, and start digging through people's luggage.
Yeah. So you think the other bureaus, are they more working class? Is that why?
The other boroughs are much more working class.
Yeah, Staten Island is
Staten
overwhelmingly.
Island is a Republican stronghold that went for Trump. Actually won Staten Island. Huge swaths of Brooklyn, South, where I'm from. I'm from Coney Island. That's all Trump country down there.
Yeah.
Queens is kind of split.
Given that Trump is a
Sheepshead Bay, Bensonhurst, that's also
I'm
kind of
from
right wing.
Sheepshead Bay,
Given that Trump's a lifelong, best I know, lifelong New Yorker, why is there not more fondness for?
There is. It's
he
just
not
in pockets. It's
Okay,
just in
it's just
pockets. I mean, it's a big city. It's a big city. I mean, you're talking about millions of people. I recommended on Twitter the other day that he rent out Yankee Stadium for his rally instead of Katona Park up in the Bronx, which holds 3,500 people. Many people have rented out Yankee Stadium historically, including Billy Graham, including Nelson Mandela, who had 80,000 people in there in 1990.
Wow. Are the owners of the Yankees conservative leaning?
They're conservative. The Steinbrenner family out of Tampa, down here, of course.
That's not a bad idea.
It's a great idea. I hope he does it because he could pack in 80,000 people.
That would be
and
nuts.
run it for multiple nights. You don't even have to, use it for one night.
What if he were to be convicted, but then they delay the sentencing, and he does that in the interim?
Well, here's the question. Will he delay the sentencing? How does that help Judge Marchand by delaying the sentencing?
Right.
Traditionally, and this has changed in American judicial system recently, everybody used to be out on bail pending appeal. That has disappeared in the last 5 years under the Biden administration and the New World Order that's taken over the judicial system. We saw what happened in the Alec Baldwin case down there. The girl was immediately, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, despite filing an appeal, was immediately taken into custody. Man. I don't think they're going to do any different with Trump. They want him behind bars. The idea is to take him off the playing field. So,
no, I agree with you. That's what all of this has been about. It's just very hard for me to believe that, given the evidence presented, that they could still convict. But given the amount of charges, I have to agree with you.
Right.
It's probable that there'll be a handful of them.
Like at least one. He's convicted of at least one.
Right.
Because
it's
one thing.
If it's 11, 1, 9, 17, what difference does it make?
Well, this is my great fear is that, like, particularly if it's just if they get him on one or two, they're fairly minor, but they put him away for 4 or 5 years or something crazy like that.
But keep in mind,
this country does not recover. No, I realize that. But I'm saying, still, even on a felony charge, you could still see 3, 4, 5 years sentencing.
Absolutely.
And it's like that would be enough to really potentially throw this country to a tailspin that we don't recover from. I'm very nervous about it.
Well, put
now.
it this way: when the incident happened in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963, half of the country celebrated in classrooms, cheering out loud, to the surprise of many of the supporters of the victim of that incident. So it depends what side of the fence you're on.
Yep, and according to Ron Paul, that was the start of the kind of larger takeover of the U.S. federal government by the intelligence agencies that aren't really held accountable for a lot of the larger actions that, of course, they commit against a lot of different people.
And if people haven't heard yet, Ron Paul's right about everything. So if he says that, then it's probably true.
We have a shirt that says, "If I told you so" was a person, and it's a picture of Ron Paul on it that you could get on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. But Donald Trump is responding to a lot of this. He just filed a motion to dismiss this trial because he says it's a disaster for this country. He says he did nothing wrong. He said his only crime is that he beat Hillary Clinton, as he did another press conference where he had this to say.
We saw, that was an incredible display. I've never seen anything like it in my life. A tyrant and everyone's talking about it. This is what we have. We have an acting judge, appointed judge by Democrats, by the club, and they're keeping now, I guess this is our 4th week, soon to be our 5th week. Not campaigning, but you saw what happened, what just took place in that court. And hopefully the motion to dismiss this trial will go through, because this trial is a disaster for our country. It's a disaster for New York State, New York City. Greg Jarrett just says, where exactly is the crime? To quote a memorable line from Shakespeare in Love, I don't know, it's a mystery. There is just no crime. Andy McCarthy, if it's unconstitutional for Texas to enforce federal immigration law, how is it constitutional for New York to enforce federal election law?
It definitely does seem, and it's pretty clear, that this is political prosecution. Donald Trump goes to jail. This is next level martyrdom that will bring this country to the brink of utter chaos and civil strife.
Question for the panel is: does anybody know if he is to be remanded to custody and he's actually in prison, can he still run?
I think you can.
Oh yeah, you can. People have run in the past from prison. Yeah, that's not an issue. Can you serve is the issue. How do you physically serve? Because if he's remanded to Rikers Island, if bail is denied, which I suppose it'll happen, why would this guy give him bail? Why would he do that?
It's weird because I've always dreamt of seeing an American president behind bars, but not like this.
Well,
not like this.
Nobody's imagined any of this. I mean, this has happened before. You know, and even Trump is citing Mandela and Martin Luther King, who were in prison. But they were in their 30s and 40 years of age, not 77 like the CEO of the Trump organization, who's in Rikers Island, not like Paul Manafort. All of this started with Paul Manafort. When he went to jail, they went over his taxes. They seized his properties in L.A. They said they were ill-gotten gains. They stripped him of his money way before the trial ever occurred. Paul Manafort was put into prison, beaten down. Then they went after Roger Stone. Then they went after General Flynn. Then they went after the head of the Trump organization. And
Rudy Giuliani as well. That just got
Giuliani
served on his birthday.
On his birthday, and now they're going after the big dog.
I had Paul Manafort on Liberty Lockdown like a year ago after he got out of jail, and very, very interesting guy. In fairness, I think his backstory, there's probably some criminality potentially, but regardless, like it's so obvious when you look at the disparate treatment, when you see the Biden administration, what they've been guilty of, the Clintons, for God's sakes, and it's just like no one in this room expects to ever see Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton on trial, but we are seeing Donald Trump on trial for a bunch of trumped up charges that are, they're just lacking any sort of evidence, really.
I'd love to pull the charges up because from what I've heard, and I wish I could recall this, it's a lot of the same charge just over and over again. Like one email went out to 30 people. I don't know what the numbers are.
Expense.
So they charged it 30
He categorized
times.
an expense incorrectly, and then they said he did it 30
because
plus
it went
times.
out to 30 different people, and each mailing of this false expense was like a felony charge.
I
or
think
something like that.
that's a good reason to believe that he might actually be exonerated, because if they are all the same charge, well, if you find not guilty on one, you basically have to find not guilty on all. So it's either like it's all or nothing, it seems like.
Donald Trump's faith is in the hands of 12 people living in Manhattan.
Yeah, that's not good, man.
That's not good. That's not good for
Well,
for
I
this country.
had originally told him on Twitter. I had originally suggested before it started that he just go down to Florida and call it a day and not show up. And I'm sticking with that. And I recommended that to other people. When it's a kangaroo court, like this is obviously a kangaroo court, you're creating an environment that is making it a sanctified, true justice experience by sitting there every day and not acting out. By even being there, he is making it into a legitimized Stalin-esque show trial. Yep. What I suggested was that he just simply issue a statement, not show up, go to Florida, campaign around the United States. These are not federal charges. There are no federal marshals. This is state charges in the state of New York. It's like having a DUI in Hawaii. Nobody's hauling you in Utah. I mean, that's the equivalent of what we're looking at here. And if he just avoided New York, he could campaign in 49 states.
Well, he'd have to avoid Georgia.
Well, that's a separate issue. Georgia, that would be a separate issue.
That's really interesting. I'm curious why he didn't do that. Do you
I don't
have
know.
an idea on why?
Well, there's a part of him that wants to fight. That's a Trumpian thing. Again, it's not a quality that I enjoy of Trump, but it's a quality from Queens, New York, that's different from Brooklyn. I think
it's the quality I respect most about him. I want an actual fighter. I just wish that he was more in alignment with me politically, so then he'd be fighting specifically for my cause.
Right, but I'll give you an example of the other way it should happen. Abby Hoffman and Jerry Rubin, along with William Kunstler and the Chicago 7 trial, saw that was a rigged kangaroo court. And what they decided to do was to blow up that trial and not cooperate in a railroading of themselves. And that was made into a number of books and movies and everything else. You could see them all wherever you want to see them. But they conspired to do that instead of just legitimizing that court proceeding. And they were railroaded. It was supposedly crossing state lines, conspiracy to riot, coming to Chicago in 1968. The same thing's going to happen this year in Chicago because the Hamtifas are going to get into Hamas and Antifa, combined, my Hamtifa friends, will get credentials from members of the squad and other people. They will bust open this convention in Chicago like was done in 1968, I predict. Yep. The DNC talked about it 2 weeks ago. They're petrified of this happening. This is leaked out 2 weeks ago from the DNC.
To protest the war in Palestine?
Well, to protest the war in Palestine and also to bust up the convention because of their hatred for Joe Biden. That's the biggest nightmare on live television, is to have a situation like that was in 1968 in Chicago, when 80% of the rank and file Democratic members in that convention hall voted for a plank against the Vietnam War, and they handed the nomination to Hubert Humphrey, who was not in any primaries. That's what happened in 68. That's why the doors were open. That's why the credentials were given. That's why there were riots inside and journalists were shoved around and pushed around and everything happened in Chicago. But that being said, we're going to see it repeat itself in
Chicago.
And I remember the irony is breathtaking.
I remember covering major protests there. I think it was the NATO protests that were happening in Chicago, and they were busting up heads. There was blood everywhere. I remember being on the front lines there with Tim Pool reporting on it, where literally Chicago police officers tried to set us up and terrorized us. We got raided. I had a gun put to my head by Chicago PD. Just reporting on everything that was going on in Chicago. Chicago's a dirty place. And I might even stay away from the DNC because of just the chaos that I had to go through last time with Tim and all the kind of larger psychological pressures and tortures that we faced from the authorities there, describing what was kind of happening there. But it was brutal. We have $100 mysuperchat.com. Steph, do you want to read it? But the bazungas were going off, but I think you switched cameras. This is why you got to keep your headphones in when Clint's girlfriend's bazungas were exploding. And I'm going to ask Josh if you could trigger those again, and then if you could read it, Steph, and then the super chat, please.
Clint's Pride Hole says, "Hola amigos, Clint, your girlfriend is out of control."
Thank you. Clint's Pride Hole. I appreciate that very much. We got another super chat here. Do you want to read that one?
Andrew Jacobs says, "For the love of God, please do not book Pearl." Emojis.
We might.
So just full transparency, Pearl follows me on Twitter. I have asked her to be on the show. We are working on that, just for total transparency's sake. I don't know if we could keep your promise here, Andrew. She is an interesting person that I think would be interesting to talk to. We book a lot of different guests on this show. We don't always agree with them, and I think we need to have serious conversations with a lot of people who are a part of the discourse. She's a part of the discourse, and I think we could have a very interesting conversation with her. So, of course, she is welcome on the show, and next time she is in Miami, she said she would be on the show as well.
I mean, what if Ian and Pearl fall in love? Like, you want to cut that off of the past?
What if Ian Crossland is going to be the husband of just Pearly Things?
I thought it was going to be Seamus.
And then Seamus Coughlin. I think Seamus is another great candidate as well.
Younger than her.
I love Pearl. I appreciate.
But Seamus looks like an old man, though.
That's
he looks
true.
like he's an elderly
guy. So. He looks old. His liver looks even older. He's a real piece of work.
Pearl's someone that I think is straightforward, but I just disagree with a lot of stuff she says. And those are the kind of people you want to talk to.
Yeah,
and debate.
Absolutely, more than ever.
Straight shooter.
Yep,
it's just wrong.
Yep. It just continuing the conversation that we were having here, it also looks like members of CNN aren't believing the larger kind of trumped up charges against Donald Trump, as their legal expert literally came out and said, hey, this is kind of weird that this is happening when this guy's the one who actually stole from Donald Trump and he's not on trial.
I think the revelation, though, this morning about the theft of $30,000, which was doubled because they covered his taxes, so $60,000, it came out in a glancing, unclear way on direct. It came out like a bomb earlier today. I don't know how much they can do to fix that. It just, at a certain point, it is the fact Michael Cohen did steal this money. And what makes that really so important, Wolf, is it's not as if Michael Cohen was just stealing on the side. That'd be bad enough. The problem is he was stealing from the exact reimbursement at issue in this case. So the prosecution's core argument is Donald Trump knew what that $420,000 was all about. He was totally read in on it. Turns out Michael Cohen was stealing from him within that $420,000.
Does Michael Cohen's admission that he stole tens of thousands of dollars from the Trump organization potentially open him up to further criminal prosecution?
It's a great question. The answer is not anymore because the statute of limitations has run out. But it's a very fair question to ask. Gee, folks, of the jury, they gave him a free pass. He committed larceny. It's a higher degree of a felony than what Donald Trump is charged with. Yet they gave Michael Cohen a free pass, even though he's now admitted that he stole what amounts to $60,000. It goes to his credibility. It goes to his relationship with the DA.
Yeah. Wow. Just imagine being a producer on CNN and be like, shut up, no! Why are you telling them all this information?
Dude, this guy's the Whitey Bulger of attorneys.
I mean, I'm just like, if I was Donald Trump, I would send a thank you card to Michael Cohen. Like, Cohen has been a godsend. Yes,
dear
he
Michael,
testified.
Thank you, Michael.
Yes, he testified against you, but he also just absolutely destroyed the case during that testimony. Same with Stormy. You got to stop surrounding yourself with such scumbags, though, man. Good Lord.
He's got a broken picker for sure.
Dude.
You know, the thing that Michael Cohen was, first of all, they got him to flip by catching him doing these various things, but selling cab medallions in New York is an old tradition. Cab medallions, I believe now, probably, they're limited, just so people understand the system in New York City.
To become a taxi driver, you need a special medallion, and that used to be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then people would kind of rent. Yep.
Right. My uncle was a cab driver, and he sold his medallion 35 years ago for $250,000. Wow. So these medallions are gold. And Michael Cohen was involved in fraudulently selling taxi cab medallions, one of the lowest crimes you could ever be involved in New York. It's such an inside New York crime that you really have to know your way around crime to pull that off.
Cohen is a spectacular bad guy.
Yeah.
He really is.
Like, nobody would know how to commit that crime, even the mob. No, I'm serious. It's such an inside New York crime that you'd have to be a member of the Taxi and Limousine Commission to actually know how to pull that crime off.
What do you make as a taxi driver that would make $250,000 investment in the medallion worthwhile?
You get to sublease your cab. You don't drive your cab after a while.
Okay.
You sublease it out to other people.
Okay. So you get money. You get rent.
You get rent on your cab once you have the medallion, just so you know.
Yeah, and now with Uber, the whole system kind of is collapsing a little bit as well because the value of it has gone down dramatically because people are like, I don't want to be in this weird, smelly taxi that doesn't care. Yeah. But the taxi drivers are just the craziest kamikaze drivers that you could ever imagine in New York City, and the whole system definitely has been upended by new tech that's kind of becoming like old tech now. But it looks like legal challenges won't be potentially the only thing standing in the way of Donald Trump and his presidential hopefuls, as now we are getting rumors that Nikki Haley could be mounting an attempt to pull up a fight at the Republican National Convention against Donald Trump. So there's lots of rumors about this happening. We saw Nikki Haley hold out during the primaries as long as she could until everyone under the sun was saying, enough, Nikki, you're not going to win this. Just drop out of the race. She did, but with potentially Donald Trump being in jail, we just asked our YouTube audience, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, we have a poll going asking if Donald Trump will be in jail. So if you want to vote on that, just go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/wearechange right now. But Nikki Haley, will she be able to pull something off successfully here? Well, that's what a lot of people are talking about right now, as she represents a lot of establishment establishment viewpoints. She represents a lot of big Republican donors. She represents the old right-wing Republican faction that does have a lot of power still, does have a lot of influence. The question is, will she be able to be successful in potentially a larger challenge against Donald Trump, who might be in jail?
Luke, the reason she's coming out this week is because the sentencing is going to go down next week. That's why she's taken her head out of the ground and her body and whatever she's got going on there. She has reappeared because of the potential of Trump to be incarcerated.
Yep.
That's the timing issue. That's the timing issue.
And I think she's trying to be like, hey, I'm still here. I'm still available, guys.
If he's in jail and she has a press conference and says legally I'm entitled to the nomination or whatever her mumbo jumbo is, there's going to be a certain amount of gravitas behind her claim.
People won't remember this, but in the right before the Iowa primary, Vivek actually talked about this very issue, that if Trump gets put away, that he wanted to be the nominee because he wanted to be the backup plan that would not allow for a neocon Nikki Haley type to get in there
in case there was challenges at the RNC.
Exactly.
And
so Vivek is, and what's really ironic about it is that Donald Trump became, and all of his supporters, his rabid supporters, became super vicious towards Vivek for saying it. But it's obviously true that if he gets put away, that Nikki Haley will probably be the nominee, which would be crazy, terrible.
Well,
awful.
he could still win the nomination from Rikers Island.
Yeah, that's true.
He doesn't have to physically be there or anywhere to win the nomination.
All right, well then what is the angle for Nikki to get in then? If
she's going to put it out there that this guy is incarcerated, vote for me. I mean, that's her angle.
Okay,
and then the
legal angle. Then the delegates at the convention can, I guess, select, even though he won the primary, they can go the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, the delegates get to decide. So the delegates at the RNC are going to be voting. There's there's this kind of ritual system that they do at these conventions where it's like, I represent the people for Georgia. We nominate so and so. And this is why when Bernie Sanders was running for the presidency of the United States, there was a larger kind of Democratic effort to undermine any states and any delegates from raising their votes for Bernie Sanders.
Right.
And they essentially rigged the system in a way where all the Bernie Sanders people couldn't get their voice in, couldn't say anything. They were cut off from everything. There was a big scandal. And then Bernie Sanders kind of bent the knee and then kissed the ring of Hillary Clinton and acquiesced and said, no, guys, stop fighting for me. Give it to Hillary Clinton, the neoconservative corporatist overlord that we all deserve.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, Luke, they don't have super delegates in the Republican Party. Just the DNC has super delegates.
Yeah, the super delegates basically supersede the delegates. So if the delegates say we were going to pick this guy, this small group, I don't know how many super delegates there can say, no, you're going to have this guy that wasn't even on the ticket is going to be your nominee. Republicans can't do that as far as I
love the Democrat Party too, because they're the ones that are beating the drum for defending democracy in Ukraine, and yet like basically everything about their operation is undemocratic. Like they didn't have primary process. Joe Biden was just gifted it. They've robbed Bernie Sanders. I mean,
Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who's the one who engineered the kind of steal against Bernie Sanders. She's a congresswoman now. Yep. She got promoted from being head of the DNC. We confronted her, by the way, on some very serious allegations of the previous Democratic president, and she didn't have nice things to say to me. But she's not a nice person, and she literally, hijacked essentially the election from Bernie Sanders, then was rewarded with a congressional position by the Democratic Party for doing so.
Yep. Well, keep in mind, Laura Trump is now Wasserman Schultz in terms of the RNC versus the DNC. So it may be too little too late, but they do have some power to control how a convention is run from the RNC. Why he waited all these years to put somebody who he could trust in charge of the RNC is bizarre. But again, he's got a broken picker. Every single president usually puts in their closest crony, hack, cousin, or brother-in-law to run this meaningless organization simply to block anyone from taking control over it.
Yeah, it feels like a blatant conflict of interest to have the guy running for president's daughter-in-law running the RNC.
There have been worse examples. I mean, Robert Kennedy Jr.'s father was the Attorney General of the United States while his brother was president.
Yeah, and there's supposed to be a separation of powers
Bobby
there.
John and Bobby.
Yeah, his brother was the Attorney General of the United States.
Yeah, you see nepotism every once in a while. But I would argue that Bobby Kennedy was I'm ordering my words
In the
as
mic,
fast. It's so weird.
And Mikey.
Is that, I know I got to hunch down. I got to be real careful with this mic right now. We're getting the set revamped, so it'll be a lot more sturdy. I'll be able to move it. That he was competent. That's the word I was looking for. That Bobby Kennedy Sr. was competent at the job and excessively, he was great. I mean, he ushered in the civil rights movement in a lot of ways from the political end, where Martin Luther King was doing it from the cultural end, as opposed to but the thing is, Lara Trump is competent. From what I know of her, she's great. I met her. We interviewed her. I think here. Literally.
Yeah.
She's an awesome human being. So
it's actually a very.
I think the Trump last name matters.
It's a very similar circumstance actually, because the Kennedys were kind of. They were obviously in opposition to the deep state, and so is the Trump family. So, like, can you blame them?
No,
for,
of course not.
You know?
Of course not.
But it was different establishment factions fighting each other, and different criminal gangs also kind of vying
I'm
for
not
power.
saying either of these
It was
sides
a
are
kind of
good.
it was a kind of more similar situation to like the Obama wing versus the Hillary wing within the Democratic power structure, vying for their own kind of power and influence, which is going to be interesting, especially with this upcoming presidential election, as there's not a lot of support for Joe Biden, and there's a lot of very serious questions about his mental fortitude, his physical health, as even Cardi B came out and said that she will not be endorsing Joe Biden in 2024 because of, quote, layers of disappointment, as she clearly said that the larger kind of financial issues with the Build Back Better Bidenomics are one of the key reasons why she's not going to be voting. She did come out and said, yes, Trump is still worse than him, but I'm not going to be supporting Joe Biden, saying that he failed in many of his promises and that she's pissed off about them printing money and spending it on issues that don't help anyone, which highlights kind of a larger discontent amongst the urban crowd, amongst the minority voters that usually are very overwhelmingly usually voting for the Democratic Party. I don't think they're going to have that kind of support with Joe Biden. I don't think they're going to have that kind of rallying call like they did in 2020 with the backdrop of the BLM riots. They don't have any of that. They don't have anything that they could stand on. They don't have any kind of track record. They don't have any kind of data. All they have is, we're not Donald Trump. That's essentially their campaign slogan. We're not Donald Trump. Vote for us. And people are like, really? Do you want me to continue to live the way that I am the last 4 freaking years of what the hell you had to put me through? We're going to have to deal with more of these reckless policies, and with the larger discontent, especially with what's happening in the Middle East. It definitely does seem, with every kind of blunder, with every stutter from Joe Biden, that it's only inevitable until he's kind of taken out of that Democratic Party position.
It becomes more likely every day. It seems like every time he drops in the polls, you're like, oh, it's getting closer. What I would like to hear from these folks is like, Cardi B, I appreciate that you would actually shift your opinion and not cast a vote for Biden a second time. However, I would like clarity as to how Trump is still worse. I would like to know that, just because, like, as you guys know, I'm not a Trump supporter, but still, from my vantage point, it's just kind of irrefutable that Joe Biden is a worse president than Donald Trump.
She said she still believes Trump to be a threat. She felt layers of disappointment under Biden, citing high cost of living and lack of action, which caused her to reconsider voting for the 2024 presidential election at all.
Yeah.
So she's not voting.
Yeah, no, I would like to know what the threat that Donald Trump presents is.
They never explain the threat. You know, it's kind of funny. They tried to make us gaslight us into thinking that he was not president for 4 years, and how he's going to be this dictator and how he's going to do certain things. He's got 4 years of a record to look at. That's there. They kind of frame it like he's running for the first time now. And that is an internal strategy. That is a psyops that they're running on, that this is his first time running. And we're going to keep saying that he's going to be a dictator, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. We saw 4 years. The question is, and I suggested to Trump that he do this and then shut his trap. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And call it a day.
Yep.
That's it. That's it. Shut up. You don't need to get into any other weeds. Just say the same thing over and over and over.
But that big pharma thing that he likes to pat himself on the back of, literally, is, I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
4 years ago today, we were in the teeth of lockdowns. Right. I don't think you actually want to reference that.
Right.
Exactly.
No, I'm just saying.
5 years ago. 5 years ago, were you better
I would just simply say, are you better off with Joe Biden now than you were with me then? I mean, a retard would. Am I allowed to say say retard?
Not really.
No.
But
Okay, but it said so outside on the, it said it outside on the sign. So
It did.
it's true.
We have a sign that we sell.
Anyway, I
that
think he
says
should
it.
say less and keep it simple.
If he was smart,
Yeah.
yes. But the thing is, he goes off script. He doesn't read teleprompters. He talks in the moment, which a lot of people believe is his greatest strength and his greatest weakness as well. Steph, we have a super chat here. Do you want to read it really quick?
I'm Not Your Buddy Guy says, if you could pick anyone to become the new AG in 24, who would it be and why? Personally, I would hope Robert Barnes would take up this role, as I cannot think of anyone better with the legal moral fortitude.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Barnes is legit.
Yeah, big Bobby Barnes.
And we interviewed him. We know him personally, and he's an incredibly smart guy. So a good point, because previously I was like, maybe RFK would be great for this, but now he's like kind of capitulating on a lot of different issues that I wouldn't be content with him in that kind of
How about a
position of
tough
power.
guy out of Texas named Paxton?
There you go.
Ken Paxton is a
How
savage.
about this son of a bitch out of Texas?
No, he's a savage.
Right.
I personally, because the GOP cupboard is so bare, I would like to see Vivek in that role because I want to see him actually prove out that he's the real deal. Because at this point, I have no idea if he is, and that would give me an opportunity to see, like, all right, you talked about purging the swamp. What did you do as AG? Like, he could go ballistic on them.
I always thought
Well,
Kash
Paxton
Patel
or
would be
this
the guy.
this AG out of Missouri apparently who brought Missouri versus Biden. That attorney general is apparently very strong. Also, if Paxton is,
I think Paxton's
impeached
number one.
again,
Though. I really like Paxton.
Yeah, so do I.
Well, we want someone that's not going to abuse the power. We want someone that's going to use it wisely,
Right.
because there's a lot of crime. There's a lot of really horrible things that happen that never go punished. And then just hopefully not make it a larger kind of political weapon like it currently is right
But
now.
see, here's the thing. If you were to actually have a AG in there that was interested in just bipartisan going after corruption, he would look as if he was a tyrant because there is so much criminality. Like he would look like he was, a McCarthy-esque type of tyrant.
But there's
ruler.
people on the right being like, we need a McCarthy right now. We need to prosecute people for their thoughts and ideas, and we need to punish. I'm like, no,
No, I don't want that
No,
either.
that is not good
but
because
I do.
the pendulum swing it has swung very far left, right, and then swinging it far right, and then going after protesters and people who are just voicing their First Amendment legally without hurting or stealing or impeding anyone. Those people shouldn't be punished. Those people shouldn't be attacked. Those people shouldn't lose their opportunities that they were given. And there are efforts by a lot of right wingers to punish people for political thoughts, especially on college campuses, which is ridiculous, which is absurd. And if there's going to be a new attorney general, we would have to go after the state of Florida and Texas to say, hey, this political speech should be protected here, not prosecuted. So
That's
will a
interesting.
right winger do that and stand on the principles of the Constitution and the First Amendment? I hope so, but this is why it has
but
to be
no.
an
The answer is
individual.
no.
Yeah, the answer is probably no. We have another super chat here. Steph, do you want to read it?
Not a joke says, shout out to Caleb Hammer, the YouTuber from the first clip. As far as I'm aware, it's all real. Great place to see how Americans' financial knowledge is effed and to learn the basics. People care more about their credit score than living in their means.
That's true. Financially, we are pretty screwed, and I think this is going to be the leading kind of factor in this upcoming presidential election. Now, changing tides dramatically, we want to talk about geopolitics as we just got the first images of the helicopter crash that took the life of the Iranian president, as there's a lot of different things to talk about to this very specific issue, this very specific story, as we have the former minister of Iran, the former foreign minister of Iran coming out and saying that the United States is to blame for the president's death, as he is specifically talking about U.S. sanctions on Iran that have prevented them from getting proper aircraft and spare parts for their current aircraft, as the helicopter that the president of Iran was flying in was stopped being made in the 90s. You heard that correctly.
Sad.
A lot of other people are blaming weather modifications. They're blaming foreign governments. They're blaming intel agencies. And for me, I covered this story extensively yesterday and today on my main YouTube channel. I think there's a number of different kind of variables here. I think the first kind of official story is kind of plausible. There could be internal strife. There could be external pressures. What's really going on here? I still think we need to wait until we have more evidence.
Could be
exactly.
Weather, yeah.
It could be. It could be the
I mean,
the story of what we're being told.
They're blaming spare parts. You might want to blame Jeff Bezos at Amazon because they were paying for Prime, Amazon Prime, and they didn't get the spare parts fast enough. I think that's outrageous.
Delivery.
Yeah. I mean, they could deliver anywhere.
Like 4 to 8 a.m. next day.
But I mean, even if it is weather, you will still have people that suspect
weather modification.
Yep. So look, I'm in the position of like basically. All right, if you actually look at what's happened over the past 2 weeks, there has been multiple assassination attempts of political leaders that stand in opposition to the West. I don't think that that's a coincidence.
Nope.
So, yes, they were flying in fog, or they were helicoptering in fog. But I'm going to lean, just as I did in the early days of the Nord Stream explosion. I'm going to lean towards it being MI6, CIA, Mossad, because that's the most probable. But I can't say
Clint was on
definitively.
record for blaming Mossad for the Kobe assassination.
I did not blame them for Kobe.
Come on.
He loved Kobe. He loved Kobe.
Who doesn't love Kobe?
Broken my heart.
It was fog. There was a helicopter. An Armenian was the pilot. They told him. And you know that's true. Come on.
It is.
My first thought was that it was CIA. I was like, well, it's just so convenient. So convenient with this Iran, the tensions with Iran. But then now the Iranians are claiming that it was faulty parts.
Right.
Well, did you guys see that? I don't know if it was an official state account, but they tweeted out the helicopter. It was like Israel War Room Twitter handle, and they did it.
Retweet that.
They did it like within hours.
But that's not an official government Twitter, is it?
No, that's what I'm asking. I don't know.
No, see, this is how a lot
of
of fake news is spread all the time. People are like, "Look what this person said," and there's one particular image of someone saying that there's going to be facial recognition of all the protesters that were protesting at the college campuses that were going to be database. And I'm like, that's a troll account, and people were taking it as it was seriously done by the Israeli government. Now, whether that's being done or not. Again, the facts matter here, and someone trolling there. I did see on Twitter automatically when this news came out yesterday, a lot of people kind of celebrating from the Middle East this news, which again is kind of distasteful. You shouldn't celebrate death. We make sure to make a note of that, no matter who kind of passes away. But what's really going on here? Again, I want more evidence. I want more information. I'm not willing to jump to that conclusion yet, Clint. I think it's worth questioning. I think it's worth speculating, sure, especially because the CIA has a track record of assassinating democratically elected leaders and taking them out like they did in Iran a couple decades ago.
They're pretty rusty the past couple of years.
Yes.
Well, I mean, the reality is that Mossad's been far more active in Iran over the past few decades than the CIA. So I would lean towards it being them. It makes perfect sense. You have Netanyahu on record repeatedly saying that this is all proxy of Iran. So from their vantage point, it would be a legitimate target. But I'm not going to celebrate any of it. I'm not going to come to any serious conclusion. Just because I think like these are flashpoints for potential widening of the war, which would almost certainly suck the Americans into it, into active boots on the ground in different areas. I want nothing more than to not see that happen.
But internally, it could also be someone in Iran who's up the ladder to be in a position of power, saying, "What if I just take these guys out? I'm going to be closer to the seat of power here."
Ask LBJ how he became president.
Exactly.
Well, and that's exactly if you were, because there are these internecine battles between different power factions in these corrupt nations or the corrupt governments. It would make perfect sense that in that moment of everyone's going to blame Israel or everyone's going to blame America, well, this is a perfect time to move.
Great cover story.
Right. So,
Luke, have you seen the Victoria Nuland video this morning? Have you seen that yet?
Yes, we actually have that pulled up.
I hope you would bring that up.
We have that pulled up.
It's going on her greatest hits album.
Yeah,
Michael
gold. Tracy called her the Queen of Darkness.
That's a good one.
But we're probably going to have to save that conversation for the next platform that we're going to be going to.
We have to
just
get
a
up.
little bit.
We don't get up.
We don't get up.
Just stay right here.
We just stay right here, and then we kind of move along from there. But any other kind of closing thoughts on what happened in Iran? Because this is a major event. This is going to shift and change the geopolitical kind of power structure. There are a lot of questions here. Again, I want more evidence. I want to see the evidence, then I'm willing to come to any kind of legitimate conclusions. My conclusions as of right now is that the official story probably is probable unless I see something that, of course, puts in larger questions to the official story, which I haven't yet. That's just my initial kind of perspective here. based off what I'm seeing and what I'm seeing from the Iranians as well.
I go the opposite direction. I lean towards conspiracy, and then I will buy the official story if they provide evidence to confirm it, because there's no reason to believe that, given that they're currently in a proxy war allegedly in backing Hamas, that their president and their PM get taken out in a helicopter crash just because of weather. Like, the odds are against that. I'm sorry, the odds are against that. Now, could that be the case? Yes, of course it could. We won't know for a while.
I'm going to go with a film title by the documentarian Errol Morris, "The Fog of War," as my explanation for this final segment. We're not going to know.
I don't make claims about this kind of these high-powered global military thing. My deep mind, I have definite cynicism and conspiracy. That's where I think like all the possible who's involved, but I'm not going to say that stuff out loud without any kind of evidence.
What concerns me most is that this could be casus belli for the Iranians to take it more hot and more direct with Israel, because if they frame it as this being either America or the Israelis as being culpable. Like, imagine if we thought that Donald Trump or Joe Biden had been assassinated by Iranian spies
the argument
or
they
something.
made about the sanctions being what did it. That's like saying if you're starving someone out and then they starve to death, and they're like, "Hey, you killed that." Can you really? That's that.
Yeah, I hear it. I hear it. You don't have the headphones on. I do.
Okay. My headphones are a bit loud. Also, by the way, I didn't want to.
I know you guys got to check them before the show starts. Like I keep asking you guys to.
That like. Yeah, you basically, that guy, you can say, oh, he killed himself because he didn't eat, but like you were the one starving him out. So
no, I think there's a fair claim to be made if it was the sanction regime that made their helicopters not safe. But I don't believe for a second that they would have put their president and their PM in the same helicopter that was knowingly unsafe. That strikes me as utterly bizarre.
Well, it's not even legal here. We can't have the VP and the president on the same plane.
Right.
So I don't know why they would do it.
Well, I mean, that makes me lean towards it perhaps being an inside job in Iranian
right. How do you get the
political
two of them on board that same plane?
maneuver.
I mean, that's crazy.
Do we have an official story as to why it went down?
Spare parts. They said
weather?
Spare parts and fog.
Yeah.
Like,
And
is it
weather
completely
changing.
proven? Is that like...
No, it's far from proven. It's been 36
It's
hours.
a speculation, basically.
But that was like I think the Iranians said that.
They did say that.
Who knows?
As their official story to their people.
No.
Yeah, but that leads to the fact that it could be an internal hit job from the Iranians, because the Iranians are like,
It's going to
this
be
guy
on,
failed.
Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack in about 3 years, which I can't wait for.
I mean, this is the unfortunate part of having propaganda from all sides of all these wars, is that it's very hard to come to any serious conclusions. I just would encourage people to take the official story with a grain of salt until they prove that too. There's this tendency to accept the official story and then have it be disproven. It's like, no, they have to prove the official story. These people are professional liars on all sides. So that's how I approach
Well, that's
it.
going to be the job of the Iranians. Will the Iranians come forward with information and investigations? I'm going to be keeping a close eye on that, and then of course calling.
What
things
about
like I see
Space
it.
Force? What do they do all day? What is Space Force?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question.
Luke, I thought you would hit me to what Space Force is, because nobody seems to have an answer.
There's another layer to this that's fascinating. 'Cause there was the apparently the weather data for that entire day was deleted. Did you guys read about that?
Oh, that's a big
dark.
one.
That's dark.
So now that doesn't point to who's culpable, but it does point to someone being culpable, that it's not an accident. Because like, why would you do that otherwise? Or
You're
maybe
saying Trudeau, right?
Definitely
You're not saying Trudeau. Okay,
No,
I'm
no.
sorry.
Trudeau's guilty of much, but
Right, but
not this.
you don't know
particular.
that.
What
Yeah.
you're not saying is Trudeau did it.
You're not saying he didn't
not
do it
saying
either.
that.
He's
What
not
I'm
saying he didn't do it.
what I'm not saying. Yes,
He is
but
the ultimate
before-
weather freak. By the
Before
way,
we
I mentioned
transition,
that. He's a
I just
weather
want to back my claim, because being in this industry for a while, questioning everything and being in the kind of conspiracy realm, I think it's always best to lead with, hey, this is what I feel. This is what maybe happened here. Let's wait. Let's actually build up the case for this. So that's my argument that I think is important, because I think a lot lot of people lose legitimacy by saying, "Oh, automatically it's this." Yeah. I'm like, let's wait a minute. Let's wait. Let's actually assess data. Let's actually
you and I are disagreeing.
Critically think and analyze everything. But again, we'll see the reports. So before moving over to another platform, we want to tell you about one of our incredible sponsors, and that is Anton's Land of Biltong. This stuff is incredible. We love working with these guys. They're a family-owned company. They do some really great, incredible products that are just top-notch. This is really good stuff. I really like it. Our guests like it. Clint literally gets paid through Biltong. Literally. That's the form of payment that we use. And I would be paid in this too because it's that great. Yes, they're working with us. Yes, they're sponsoring this show. And I'm very happy that they are because this is some legitimately really good stuff. It's a great protein snack. It's from Biltong. It's a health snack. It's a great source of iron. Also serves as a source of several other essential nutrients, including magnesium, potassium, B vitamins, which translates into exceptional gains in all aspects of life. If you follow any high-protein, meat-based diet, Biltong should be an essential part of your diet. We are going to be asking our producer to, of course, send that website in the chat room right now, as when you use promo code WRC, you get free shipping. He is also on the alternative platform that we are going to be going to in a little bit as well. Find out more about king_of_Biltong on the platform that we're going to in just a little bit.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this stuff is legit, and it's landofbiltong.com. Use promo code WRC for free shipping. The package is $500 or 500 calories, or give or take. And if you open one, you will eat the whole thing. So I just want to give that fair warning. If you open it at all, in fact, Steph and Ian, who are fasting right now, they can smell it, and I can actually see saliva dripping out of their faces.
Whoa, that is true. Look at that.
Rough.
Whoa.
You know, I've been looking at my phone this whole segment.
I'm gonna open one up and then start blowing it in there.
That's cruel.
We have lovely friends.
Luke, don't do that. Don't release the force, Luke.
I'll agree that I was just introduced to Biltong about 8 months ago, and it is phenomenal food.
I think the first time I had it was actually on IRL.
It's so good.
Yeah. Tim,
I don't know, better than jerky, probably. I don't know, it's different than jerky, but it's very similar to jerky, like fresher. I can get the nutrients in through my nose. I just don't want to strain my digestion.
It's
wow.
It's legit.
That's the other thing that you notice is that when you're fasting, your sense of smell and sight get clearer because I think it brings you back to your hunter-gatherer.
I literally feel like I'm cheating if I'm cooking and I'm smelling, or even if I'm touching the food. I'm like, oh my God, it's coming in through my pores. Like I'm cheating on my fast.
Because I did a fast for a couple of weeks, and towards the end of it, I was like a predator. I was like, I could see clear. I could smell food a mile away. Like my body was just like in pure hunt mode. It was amazing.
All right. We're going to now move over officially to another platform where the conversation continues.
At another level.
At a way another level. Before we go over there, Mark, where can people find out more information about you?
You can ask my mother. She's in the afterlife now, but she was a source of a lot of information about me. At Lord Buckley on Twitter, LORDBUCKLY. America's Untold Stories on YouTube, Rumble, and Locals. And I have a side channel, What's Up with Lord Buckley, on YouTube. And just look around. I have product out there.
At Liberty Lock Pod on X. If you want to support my work, you can subscribe there. I'll follow you back. Liberty Lockdown is the show on YouTube and Rumble, since we've already said it 2 times. I also do
Stop saying it again.
I also do Tower Gang. You should never watch that. And I will be at the National Convention in D.C. about 4 days. So that'll be very interesting. RFK Jr., Donald Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy, Thomas Massey, myself, Luke, Dave Smith, Angela McCardle. The list goes on and on. Rectable, Josh Smith.
Wow.
It's going to be amazing.
The next Vice President of the United States, Clint Russell, everybody.
God,
it's going to be incredible. He has my full-hearted support and endorsement.
No, don't do it.
Wow.
Clint Russell.
I could help you on that. In 1992, I was asked by the Peace and Freedom Party to run as the vice president on a ticket with Timothy Leary.
Oh, that'd be cool. That's
so
really
I know
cool.
what it's like to really get into the weeds on third party
I'm
presidential
already
runs.
this much into the weeds, and I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate politics.
The weeds
dude.
are terrible.
I hate it.
I'm surprised.
So we'll get into that on the other platform. That probably has a lot of very interesting. Steph's mad at me because I blew Biltong.
I'm not mad.
She's not clicking the buttons.
It's the fast. That's why I'm not clicking.
I'm going to stand up on top of you right now.
She's
my body's
immune.
eating
It
itself.
just doesn't even phase her at this point.
Can you guys smell it? Can you guys?
I don't smell it.
No, thank God. Because if I
Oh
could,
my God, I smell it.
You do?
Yeah.
A couple
terrible.
days from now, you'll smell everything.
when your body's not digesting, it goes into this state of, I think it's called autophagy, where it starts eating its own.
Yep.
We're
self.
gonna do
So if you-
poop talk on
Yeah.
another platform.
We'll
Ian,
do-
where can people follow you? Because
asking
we're
me
over
about
time.
why I'm fasting. We're going to talk about.
Oh,
on the
yeah,
next
we're gonna talk
platform,
about
so
that,
jump in
and then,
quit interrupting me, Luke.
And then the blood, and then
What's
the
going
blood
on here?
stuff,
Is this
the
a
blood
fight,
scandal,
like a family fight?
the blood scandal in the UK. We're going to talk about that as well.
Okay,
Ian,
that's
where can
awesome.
people find you before we
At
move
Ian
over?
Crossland, at Ian Crossland. Find me at Ian Crossland on the internet. Really all over a bunch of the platforms. Big time YouTube. Subscribe to me. I do interviews and all that stuff. But that's it. At Ian Crossland.
We're excited to get to the next platform. This is Steph. We are Change, pushing the buttons.
All right. I don't think we have a caller yet. So if you are a member of lukeunfilter.com, right now is the chance to